G'day everybody. Today we're going to have a look at our Bouncy breakout project. And this is the Scratch project that extends on our bouncing ball and takes us through to a game where the ball breaks through blocks and you have a paddle that can move around on the screen and control that various ways. So to get started, what we're going to do is go to the Bouncy Breakout project in Ucodemy, and the starting project link here will take you to the initial project that you can start from. And so I'll just click on that to show you that quickly. And when you see inside, you'll see the initial project. If you run it, creates the blocks and the ball bouncing. And then we're going to go through several concepts of things. If you go back to the Ucodemy page, we'll go through a number of different concepts that you need to know on how to actually get the game to interact, because at the moment we can see that the ball is just bouncing around on top of everything and there is no other controls. So the first place you want to look here is all of the previews that we have on the concept project. And each of these previews will open a new page, and when you click on them, the preview will show you the code for Scratch that you need to add to actually complete that. So you can keep that open at the same time as you work on the project and look at that for reference. So the first one is just looking at adding a brown border. So our sprites already have this. So if you look at the project, you'll see that there's a brown outline on those. And what we can do is take advantage of that by adding a touching block that says if I'm touching the border, this brown object, then I'm going to point in the opposite direction. So the way we do that is we say we're going to point in direction, and I've added in a block here, 180 degrees minus the direction. And then we would move 10 steps away from the brown object we ran into and continue on. So if we run, you'll see that that means that every time it hits either the top of the paddle, which is brown, or the brown on any of the blocks, that it will bounce off of them. So the next concept we have is the ability to make our paddle move, and you can see that my paddle was moving there. And that we have several ways we can do that, and our concept blocks that we can use. We can either use the arrow keys to move the block left and right, or we can use forever loops and use the mouse to guide the paddle around. So if we go over to the paddle, we'll see that I've currently set it to move the mouse whenever the mouse's X changes, it sets the X of my paddle to that location. So it follows the mouse around. And there's a few other different ones that we have. If I put in this one, for instance, it's more of an elastic operation, which if I stop and go again, you'll see the paddle is moving, and in this scenario it actually follows the mouse wherever I put it onto the screen. So it's not just the X direction. So that can be used for different types of games as well. And then I also have the left arrow and the right arrow hooked up to make changes. So if I do that, you can see that it tries to move left and right. I'd have to disconnect this for that to work properly. So now when I go left and right after I run, move the paddle down here, you'll see that my keys will move the paddle around. And our next concept that we have to look at is the logic to make sure the blocks are actually getting hit, that they move them out of the way. And the way we do that is we tell our ball, to send an event if it is touching on one of the brown objects. So if we go to the ball and we see this point of where it's actually detected that it's touching the brown object or brown line, we want to have it send an event out. This event is a notification to sort of anyone who wants to listen. So we're going to have it say a new event called ball collision. I'm just going to stop that for a second. And then if we go to the block you'll see we can add a, when I receive a ball collision, it's going to see if it's touching the beach ball, and if it is, it's going to do a little fade out animation and then hide. So the beauty of this is that we only run the code on the block when we actually get something to touch, and it's not running all the time to loop over and try to find it. Remember that because we've cloned our blocks, we have this same code runs for every block that's there, but only the block that actually is touching the beach ball will pass this test condition. Because if I didn't have this, it would just hide all of the blocks and not the one that the ball had run into. And the next concept for the last one is detecting if the ball goes outside the game area. Now we're going to look at its y coordinate to see whether the ball has gone below the paddle. Clicking on the wrong one there. Let me just close that. So the way we do that is we look at the ball again, and we have this code that I've created before, and say if the y position of the ball, which is the sprite I'm looking at, is less than, now this is a sensor, is less than, I've set this to the y position of the paddle. So if the ball moves down below here, it's going to run through this test. And I want to do that every time I move the ball. So my function move ball, I add that in, and then if my ball gets down below here, it's going to trigger that to happen. So let's run that and see that in play. So you can see as soon as it went down below the paddle, it said, oh no, and all the events stopped. So that's it for the concepts, and you can go ahead and try out to see if you can get all of that working as well, and click on these to get help to add them into your project that you're starting from here. And then if you get all of that done, there's a number of extra challenges that you can do to the project to make it even more fun. And now that you know how to actually get the ball to detect collisions, you can actually change the objects to make a different type of game. And some of the game ideas that you can use these concepts for are things like Pong, or a two-player tennis game. You can have two people working on a keyboard to control the two paddles. Or even a bowling game where you change it to be bowling pins and knock them down as the ball moves through just one time. Or maybe a baseball game where you hit a ball that's thrown at you. So those are just a few, and I'm sure you can come up with more ideas. So if you want to get rid of the blocks, just click the block sprite and delete it, and go ahead and create whatever you'd like. So I hope you guys have fun on the Bouncy Breakout project, and we'll see you later.